All right, let's talk about that sinking feeling every single developer has had. You know the one. You push what you think is a tiny change to the back end, and boom, the entire front end just shatters. Today, we're going to dig into how we can fix that incredibly fragile connection at the very heart of our applications and really move from that chaos to, well, cohesion. So let me start by asking you a question. Just think about it for a second. What's the most fragile part of your full stack app? I bet it's not your fancy UI library or even your database schema. No. More often than not, it's that invisible thing, that contract, that handshake between your front end and their back end. And that brings us to the core of the issue, what we can call the API synchronization problem. It's this silent, hidden danger, right? It's where the client is sitting there expecting one thing, and the server sends over something completely different. This little mismatch, well, that's where bugs are born. It's where apps fail, and honestly, where developers like us lose so many hours debugging. Now, this isn't just some practical annoyance we all complain about. It's a real formal computer science challenge. It even has a name: Syntactic Interoperability. A bit of a mouthful, I know, but in simple terms, it's just the rulebook. It says two systems can only talk if they agree on the exact shape and type of the data they're sending back and forth. And when that rulebook gets broken, well, so does your app. And this isn't some obscure, forgotten issue. It's actually a subject of serious academic research, like in this master's thesis from Germany, which really dives deep into just how critical this challenge is in modern software engineering. And the thesis makes an absolutely crucial point. This whole problem gets way, way worse in microservice architectures. See, in an old-school monolith, a compiler would just catch these mismatches for you. Easy. But when your services are spread out, talking over a network, that safety net is just gone. The contract between them can drift out of sync so easily. So how have we traditionally tried to solve this? I mean, we've used some really powerful tools like REST and GraphQL, but as we're about to see, they often bring their own kind of friction to the table, especially when your whole team is living and breathing in the world of TypeScript. So on the left, you've got the old way. You're maintaining separate schemas, you're running manual code generation steps, and worst of all, you're finding bugs only when the app is actually running. But on the right, that's the dream, isn't it? Sharing types directly, getting that beautiful, effortless auto-completion right in your editor, and catching errors at build time, long before they ever see the light of day. That gap between these two worlds is where all the pain is. So here's the real irony. The very API contracts that are supposed to give us stability, they become a constant source of friction. A major pain point. And this doesn't just slow us developers down, it leads to a less reliable product for the people who actually matter, your users. But what if you could just close that gap? What if you could get that ideal workflow without all the manual, error-prone steps in the middle? Well, this is where gRPC comes into the picture. And it's not just another library, it's a fundamental challenge to the idea that our client and server even need a translator to talk to each other. This is the tagline right from the gRPC documentation, and honestly, it's perfect. End-to-end type-safe APIs made easy. It's not about adding more complex layers of abstraction, it's about tearing them down. And here's what makes it so dang compelling. You get full static type safety and auto-completion that seriously feels like magic, hence the wizard hat. You get a snappy developer experience because there's no code generation step. On top of that, it's super lightweight, it works anywhere, and it even has smart features like request batching built right in. Okay, so how does gRPC actually pull this off? How does it deliver on this type safety promise? Well, the core idea is incredibly clever and also incredibly simple. Since your client and your server are both written in TypeScript, why not just let them share the type definitions directly? This slide basically shows the entire workflow. It's amazing. 1. You define your API on the server like you normally would. 2, and listen, this is the most important part. You export only the type definition of that API. You are not shipping a single line of your server's logic to the client. 3, you just import that type on the client side. And just like that, step 4, your client is now completely aware of your API's shape, its inputs, and its output. And what that means is the number of schemas you have to maintain, or the number of code generation scripts you have to run is 0, a big fat 0. It just uses the power that TypeScript already gives you. So this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually feel like for a developer who's coding? This is where you get that aha moment. This little code snippet from the docs is the ultimate proof. The caller here is just a test utility that pretends to be a client. But look at that line.
await caller.me.get. It looks like a simple local function call, right? But in reality, that is a fully typed network request to your backend. If you were to go rename get on the server, or maybe remove the name property from the response, TypeScript would start screaming at you right here in your editor before you even hit save.
And that's the payoff. That's the whole ballgame. The fragile link is finally reinforced. All those dangerous mismatches, those syntactic interoperability problems, they are caught automatically while you're developing, not by your users after you've already deployed to production. So I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. If your entire stack already speaks the exact same language, TypeScript, why are you putting a translator like a schema or a code generator right in the middle of the conversation? gRPC's answer is simple. You don't have to. Thanks for tuning in.